Alright, Chapter 3, Fundamental Systems and Equipment. Non-resident training course, September 1998. Navy Electricity Electronic Training Series, Module 17, Radio Frequency Communication Principles, Navy ED, Navy DTRA 14189. Distribution Statement, Proof for Public Use, Distribution Unlimited. Alright, Chapter 3, Fundamental System Equipment. Upon learning upon completion of the chapter, you'll be able to state the function of the radio communication handset with the radio set, control with the transfer switchboard, describe the function and interrelationship with the radio transmitter, describe the function of the receive the transmit, multiple couplers, describe the difference between the code with the manual telegraph and teletypewriter transmission, describe the two basic of the teletypewriter operation, describe the two type of the teletypewriter DC circuit to the site with the two type of the radio type teletypewriter shift systems, describe their basic difference, describe the function and relationship of the radio frequency carrier shift send and receive systems, describe the signal flow of the O frequency and tone shift systems, describe the function and tone terminals of the O frequency tone shift system, describe the basic multiplexing process, describe three operations performed with the Fastenal system, describe the function and relationship of the Fastenal equipment, describe the countermeasures that can be used to eliminate compromising emanations. Equipment purpose of the communication system, the collection of equipment that you give to do the specific job that may be receive the equipment that you send with the receiver. Voice communication both the sound of the receiver and the sound of the receiver teletypewriter information. Figure 3, one basic block diagram voice system, and you can see how this equipment is interconnected from the form of the basic communication system. They're going to look at several of the equipment block in detail. Receiver the antenna remote, receiver the multiple couple, the RCVR antenna patch panel, the receiver the RCRV transformer switch panel with the transmit antenna transmit multiple coupler, the XMRT or antenna transmitter XMRT transfer switchboard, radio set control unit, the handset, and also amplifier speaker, the antenna multiple cannon transfer receiver, the transfer receiver, the SWBD transmitters, SWBD remote channel selector panel, the remote remote phone unit, remote channel selector. The handset converts the acoustical energy, your voice with electrical energy for you the modulating radio transmitter. They also converts electrical energy, acoustical energy to reproduction receiver. The signal to push the talk button on the handset with a DC keying circuit. The transmitter is plugged in place in the transmitter on the air. Handsets are normally connected to the radio set control unit. Radio set control unit. Control unit figure 3.2 should provide the capability of remote control of some of the radio transmitter function of the receiver output. Some of the controls you the turning transmitter on and off. Others are you the voice modulating transmitter keying on the constant wave of the operation is desired. You can even control the audio output with the receiver, the silence, and receiver the one transmitter transmitting. So the figure 3.2 show the radio set control unit. Under the standard operating condition with up to 4 of these units can be with the parallel signal the transmitter. Receiver the group with the provided additional operating position set up often found on board with the ship with the transmitter. Receiver the control to operate with the several functions such as the bridge or combat information center. Our transformer switchboard. Transformers transfer switchboard provide the capability of the transformer remote control stations from functional signal to transmitter. Figure 3.3 show the representative of the transformer switchboard provide the capability level of the transforming any one of the any one or all or 10 remote control station function signal that any of the 6 transmitter of the cabinet has 10 rotary switches arranged with the 2 vertical functions. That is 5 each of the switch have the 8 position circuitry arranged so that they cannot parallel transmit control. Circuit this cannot connect more than one transmitter into any remote control location. Figure 3.3 show the transmitter transfer switchboard. Each of the switchboard operating knob corresponds with the remote control station. Each switch positions 1 through 6 of the corresponding to the transmission. One switch X provided the transfer all the circuits into additional transmitters. Transformer switch with more than 6 transmitters installed in the system. When the rotary switch is placed in the opposition, the remote control station is removed from the system. Let's look at the example of one transformer switchboard application remote control station. Number 2, they have the control of the transmitter. Number 3, the switch now to designate the number 2 with no rotate of the port or indicate the position 3 on its dial. The receiver the transmitter switchboard permits the operator to transfer the audio output with the receiver the remote control station's audio circuit. They represent the receiver the transformer the switchboard with the shown figure 3.14. Switchboard converts contains 10 positions. Switches each of the switches connected with the remote control station. Each switch position 1 through 5 is connected with the receiver. 3.4 show the receiver, the transformer, switchboard, the X position of each switch allow with the transformer circuit the additional switches just like the one transmitter transferred switch. The transmitter you learned earlier the transmitter simply with the lower power of the milliwatts capabilities maybe even the send voice at the short distance may use the highly sophisticated units with 1,000 even million with the watts of power to send many channels of the data. For example, the voice teletype television telemetry simultaneously over the long distance. Let's look at the complete transmitter set. The radio transmitting step of the application configuration component that will become familiar with the typical use of the typical for the eligible general purpose transmitter system used in Navy specific transmitter that used only for the illustration. For the example, we'll discover the 1,000 watt single sideband radio transmitter that's separately available to Navy and 1 setups. Normal configuration transmitter system able to voice continuous wave radio teletype transmissions in the 2 to 30 megahertz frequency range, exact spacing the number of channels available, the frequency spectrum modes of the operation frequency ranges depending on the model of the equipment. However, the figure used the slack of the reacting of the mounting is used in the ship with the shore permanent installation accessory equipment. For example, the radio frequency amplifier, coupler, control unit, power supply to form a complete communications system. One of the 3 different 3-phase power primary power source that can be used depending on whether the transmitter is land, air, or shore based to provide operating power with the set combinations available. 115 volts, 400 hertz, and 280 to 440 volts, 60 hertz. General description. Figure 3 flash over the major units of the set of the radio transmitter, the radio frequency amplifier, power supply with electrical limit shot mount made for the antenna coupler group with the coupler control unit that normally usually attached to the impedance of the system of 50 ohm transmission line. If you want to operate 50 ohm antenna system terminating control of the available with antenna control cable, the handset, the key, the antenna control compartment, the radio transmitter, the amplifier, the transmission, the power supply, shock mount, radio transmitter set. The transmitter provided with the upper sideband, with the lower sideband, with the independent sideband, with the continuous wave, the FSK, the compatible, the automated amplitude modulating signal with the output of the transmitter have enough power to drive the radio frequency amplifier. Depending on the module transmitter tone, with the frequency range from 100 to 500 hertz, that increment the digital circuitry is accomplished with the power of the transmitter output that are applied with the radio frequency amplifier automatically tuned with the correct frequency. Will go through the detail broke down with the frequency transmitter until later in the chapter. Radio frequency amplifier. Radio frequency amplifier unit, the 2-stage linear power amplifier reproduced with the output with 1,000 volt with the nominal input with 100 milliwatts. 19 frequency bands are used to convert the operating frequency range of the operating band with the automatically circuit with the digital coding with the generated by the transmitter. The code control with the 2 motor driven the band switch and assemble the automatic control circuit with the protect against the overload with the compensate with the variation system game with the mode with the operation loading. All low voltage required with the operating except for the 2 relay control valves and the internally produced with the high voltage required with the amplifier stage reproduced to produce the associated power supply with the using 60 hertz primary power. The operational internally mounted power supply with using 400 hertz primary power. Let's take a look at the figure 3.6 for the setup with all the operating controls indicated located on the front panel. Some of the controls used for the final for initial setup with the protected with the high hinge across the cover. All connections are made with the rear of the cave with the amplifiers associated interstage with the broadband transformers assembly cooled with the forced ventilation cooling air with the drum with the filter on the front of the panel with exhausted through the port of the rear of the case. You should also always take particular care to clean and replace with any filter electronic equipment as a regular part of the preventive maintenance program. This shows your figure 3.6 for the radio frequency amplifier, multi-purpose meter, over indicator, overload, alarm, and system in standby indicator, operator indicator, frequency megahertz indicator, window power meter, frequency megahertz switch. Selector switch, power meter switch, 500 volt DC 1.5 views, 28 volt C3 3 amp fuse, key switch, power control, PA bias, etc. Coupler, 3 amp fuse, primary power switch, primary power fuses, power 1 amp fuse, overload switch, a multi-purpose meter switch. Power supplies, 1 power supply produced for the operating voltage with the amplifier with operating 60 hertz for the power supply, a call component for the power supply except for the power transformers mount with the shaft of the panel with assembly with a hinge mount with the metal case. Power transformers construct the power part of the case with no operating control for the other power supply with produce the operating volt for the radio frequency amplifier, 400 hertz, 3-phase, 115 volt primary port source for the issues. The antenna coupler group. The antenna coupler group with the automatic antenna with the tuning system. However, the equipment design is includes the provision of manual semi-automatic tuning that makes the system adaptable for use of the radio transmitter. The manual tuning capability the use of the automatic tuning circuit. The tuning is accomplished without the use of the radio frequency silent tuning. The method of useful installation of the radio silence must be maintained with the roof transmission period. The antenna coupler match with the impedance of the 15 to 25 to 28 and 35 foot whip antenna 50 ohm transmission lines have the frequency of the 20 to 30 megahertz of the range of the control signals are associated with the antenna coupler control with the automatic tuning of the matching network less than 5 seconds during the manual silent operation. Tuning of the accomplished with the operator with the controls mounted on the antenna coupler control unit. The lower power did not exceed 250 watt with the continuous wave. The signal required for the tuning overtune with the coupler with the cable with a 1,000 watt peak with the envelope power. The coupler is enclosed in aluminum or airtight pressure size and pressure gauge 6 mounting feet enable the unit to be attached with the mass ship at the base of the whip antenna. The coupler is pressure over the dry nitrogen to aid the internal heating of the transfer, the preventing of the corona and arcing. The L component with the coupler is secured with the chassis and mounted to the case, and the air duct exists between the passing the plate of the case of the internal flame of the circulate for the nitrogen over the heat through preceding elements, and then through the air duct, the passing through the air duct, the nitrogen left the heat bound with the case of the heat transform to clinic fin, convection of the fins bottom of the case and conduction through the mounting of the feet. Figure 3-7 show the type, show the antenna coupler control of the unit provide the power of the control signal to reduce the tune of the coupler control signals are automatically powered by the coupler control of the tune cycle will initiated properly to reduce the front panel control. Alright, 3-7 shows your antenna coupler control with the discriminator null you meter the element position me with the tune indicator, ready indicator, overload alarm bypass switch, bypass indicator, overload indicator, power indicator, overload switch, power switch, fuse is 1.5 amps, mode switch, press retune, push button right, push button left, push button LC switch. All DC operating voltages that produce the 115 volt 40 to 80, 63 or 350 to 450 hertz single phase of the primary power source with the meter protection circuit to give them the complete control with a coupler from the remotely positioned coupler with the control unit. Your radio transmitter 53H of the front panel of the radio transmitter with the radio frequency transmitter except for the audio encoded intelligence with the modulated one of the 280,000 possible operating radio frequency of the 2 to 29.999 megahertz frequency range of the tune accomplished with the digital means of the 5 control knobs which located on the front panel of the transmitter have the normal radio frequency output level of 100 milliwatts designed to be with the associated radio frequency power amplifier. This show 3H of the radio transmitter handset with connector of the local remote switch LSB line, the LSB line level meter mode switch, the USB level meter, the USB level switch, continuous wave jack, hertz switch, 1 kilohertz control, 10 kilohertz control, 100 kilohertz control, 1 megahertz control, 110 megahertz control, and fused local ISB hand switch. When the AM in the single sideband transmitter mode with the operation with the output with the handset with the plug with the transmitter, the voice signal to amplify with the modulate with the 500 kilohertz local carrier with the produce of 500 kilohertz intermediate frequency with the resulting double sideband signal with the refills with the AM mode with the amplify with the converter with the triple conversion profit the desired radio frequency operating frequency radio frequency signal amplify the nominal 100 watt level that can use with operating 500 kilohertz local carriers and serve the directly with the intermediate frequency amplifier signal to further process with the same manner with the vocal signal. The AM single sideband mode with the operation FSK with the local with the loop with the current with the converter with the audio frequency with the representative marking space with the L signal and applied with the audio currents of the transmitter with the air signal to produce same with the voice signal of the AM the single sideband mode of the operation typical the road radio transmitting set block diagram shown figure 39. Alright, this is your typical radio transmitting set block, radio transmission set automatic coupler, voice continuous waves on the side, radio set controls, audio control transmitter switch, radio frequency amplifier, do the radio frequency controls, tuning and code, random medium transmitter, voice continuous wave SSK, primary power supply, radio frequency power supply, antenna coupler control, antenna coupler, auxiliary receiver, whip antenna. Our receiver, we will discover the triple conversion from the super heterodyne with the tunable with 2 to 30 megahertz. Triple conversion with the intermediate frequency that give the better adjacent to the channel with the select with the greater image frequency with the suppression figure 310 show with the front with the panel receiver with the tuning done with the digitally with the 5 controls the switch display with the directly above with the each with the control provided with the digital readout frequency to them with the display frequency can be changed 1 kilohertz rhythm in front of the handle switch allow with the optical frequency to be changed 100 to 500 kilohertz increment depending on the mode model. This will provide with the 288,000 discrete frequencies located with the very accurate frequency stand with the continuous tuning each of the 1,000 hertz increment selecting the veneer position of the hertz switches the veneer a full accuracy frequency standard and sacrifice for the receiver the demodulate provides audio input to the LSB, USB, ISB, IMs, continuous wave and SSK type of the received signals. Our figure 310 shows the typical radio receiver, the USB phone jack fused with indicator to the LSB line level switch, LSB level line, LSB level control mode, selector switch, USB level control, USB line level meter, USB level switch, and H2 switch, and veneer indicator, veneer dial control, USB level control, kilohertz digital indicator, 1 kilohertz control. 10 kilohertz digital indicator, 10 kilohertz control, BFO beat frequency oscillator frequency control, 100 kilohertz control, 100 kilohertz digital indicator, radio frequency gain control, 1 megahertz control, 1 megahertz digital indicator, 1 megahertz 10 megahertz control, 10 megahertz dial indicator, LSB level to control, LSB phone jack. Alright, antennas distribution system. Receiving antenna distribution system operated at lower power level. They're built with a standard 19-inch rack. Each position distribution equipment fit with the termination of patch fittings designed for each of the connection disconnecting patch. Basic patch panels Shown figure 3, level the fundamental distribution systems of the antenna transmission lines, level the receiver, the normal patch line, consider the two basic patch panels. One panel is used to terminate the antenna transmission line to the other lines leading the receiver. The antenna can be patched and the receiver the uses the patch cord. Show the receptacle label, the aluminum plate 19 by 2 inches, the radio frequency match panel, the receptacles. Main distribution system more complex with a complex distribution system cover the most situation figure 312 and with the system with the 4 antenna with the 4 receiver there, and you can attach one antenna more than one receiver to leave multi-couple marble cover later. In the chapter you can also receive patch the radio frequency auto frequency from one card into the other frequency standards connected through the distribution amplifier not shown in these receivers. Alright, shows your tuner DAC antennas assembly bulkhead, the receiving whip antenna, the stuffing tube, the kick pipe, the receiving antenna patch panel filter assembly, antenna coupler group receiver, patch panel, electronic shop, radio transmitter, tuner, RCVR 1, 2, and 3, and 4, radio transmitter, frequency standard, radio receiver transistor, switchboard, audio, radio phone units. Your transmitter antenna distribution system performs the same function. Receive the system, however, to give it the higher proper level of the design, fabrication problems are more difficult. The ideal design would have all the transmission lines designed with the highest power level to be most high power patch cords, especially the large and difficult to handle. The approach with the seldom filed within practice of the patch panel. We just looked at figure 11, the practical lower power level of the same type of the transistor patch shown figure 313. Figure 313 shows the transistor antenna patch panel with the tank of the transmitter antenna patch panel with an interlock transmitter. No open jack connection can be energized with no energized patch cord can be removed. That provides you with a greater degree of personal equipment safety. Or see multiple coupler. Figure 314 filter assembly multiple coupler provides 7 radio frequency channel with a 14 kHz to 32 MHz range. Any of all the following channels may be with the independent frequency. Any of the other channels they may operate simultaneously. So you can make the connection with the receiver the means of the coaxial patch cords, which short length with short length with the cable plugs attached to the ends. Electrical filter assembly. At the center of the 9-plug in type filter assembly furnished with the equipment contains a very low frequency, medium frequency, high frequency band. Only some of the assembly may be installed at one time. That you have the option of the selecting you need to cover the most frequency bands. Figure 312 the illustrated filter assembly with the combination with the other pass of the radio frequency signal antenna. Or receiver the transmitter multiple coupler most multiple coupler high frequency design either transmitter receiver although some of the both of the large number of the channel with the multiple couplers made with the transmitter at the same time. The antenna, especially true with the 2 and 12 MHz range. Figure 315 show the antenna coupler group is designed primarily with the shipped order for each of the coupler group permits for the several transmitter to operate simultaneously into a single associated broadband antenna. You can see with these reduce the total number of the antennas required limited space aboard ship. Figure 315 show the antenna coupler group. The antenna for the coupler provides with the coupling path to provide efficiency between each of the transmitter associated antenna, all provided the isolation between the transmitter tunable band pass filters and matching networks. Or your teletypewriter and fast mile equipment. The previous era with the discovery different modes method of the voice communication at time with the message with the down as too large practical transmission by voice give the information ideal correctly to know the person far away. You need the chart or map with the photograph, the teletypewriter, and fast mile equipment that allows you to do so with the ease. Let's see how this is done. Basic principles to give the idea of how the intelligence sent the V with the teletypewriter looks to like a manual telegraph circuit shown figure 316, including the telegraph key with the search over the battery, the sound, or removable sounder armature for the key is closed with the current flow through the circuit, the end of the armature for the check with the sound of the magnetism, and the key with the operated with the armature retracted by the spring. Two electrical conditions. Circuit intelligence can be transmitted by moving the teletypewriter code. The two conditions of the circuit are marked as marking and spacing. The marking condition occurs when the circuit is closed with the current flow. The sparking condition. The spacing condition occurs when they open and no current flows. Show the power source, the station, switch key, the key line spring of the station, armature, and sounder. If the key in the station A is replaced with the transmitter teletype sounder arrangement with the station B, the replace with the receiving teletypewriter, the basic teletypewriter circuit loop is shown figure 317 is formed. Teletypewriter transmitter line receiving the teletypewriter power source. If the teletypewriter signal could be drawn on paper, it would resemble the figure 318 with the code with the combination lever. The R showed the areas show the intervals during the circuit is closed. The band cover the areas show the intervals during the circuit is open. The signal has been 2 several units of 5 of the numbered with the called the intelligent units. First and last units of the signal are labeled with start and stop. The name of the after these functions first start with the signal last stops it, and they are part of the every teletypewriter code signal to start is usually all unit is always spacing and stop. A unit is always marking. So you have to start the binary code 1 2 3 4 5 marking spacing signals. The teletypewriter signal with the perfect signal time between the unit remains the same during the transmission signal. The shift of the marking to space, the vice versa, called the transition. Transition occurs at the beginning of each of the end of the unit. The switch is marked the space of the mark. Space to mark the character may have 2 or 4 or 6 transition when the figure of the time duration signal character no allowance of the transition time is made. Since the transition instantaneous conservative have 0 time duration. The time duration of each unit is measured in milliseconds. Alright, codes. There are 2 types. 2 of the Navy use manual telegraph and teletypewriter operation. One that varies to understand while the other is more complex. Let's look at the 2 types, how they work. Manual telegraph. Manual telegraph is the most widely used with the Morse code. In this code, the 2 distinct with the single the element for the employee with the dot and dash. The difference between the dot and dash duration dash is with the 3 times as long with the dot. The extra character may be made up. The number of the dots and dashes. The dot and dash is the elements making up the character are separated from each over the other with the time interval equal to the duration of one dot. The time interval between the characteristics of each word is equal to the duration. The third 3 dot for the interval between the word is equal to 7 dots. A signal man with the Morse code to send with a visual flashing light message with the radio man with the Morse code to send messages electrically. Or teletypewriter message transition. Teletypewriter operates the code of the group of each of the character of the uniform of the Morse code with the uneven length of the code. It cannot be viewed the teletypewriter operation with the code additional code converter. Or your 5-unit code has most commonly used the modern printing telegraph, the universally teletypewriter operation that is often known as the Baudot code. The mechanically send the device for the teletypewriter device with 7 times each for the character and 5 short code elements and pulp with the equal duration 5-unit code with the example of which for the even the length of the constant length of the code, one of which for the number of single elements for the character should same with every character with during each of the elements, the constant with a 5-unit code with each of the characters consists of the combination of 5 signal elements. Each element may either mark or space with a total of 32 combinations for the single elements possible with the arrangement. A 32 possible combination available. The 5-unit code is sufficient with the handle of the alphabet number of the sense for the 26 of the combinations are required to the letter of the English alphabet alone. Leaves only 6 combinations for the numeral symbol and non-printing functions. The number of the combination uniquely inadequate, therefore 2 or 32 combinations use the shift the signal. There's 50, and the shift signals are often referred to as case shift signals. One case letter left shift, the other figure shift. The 2 shift signal of the remaining code combination to be used the letter shift the signal of the letters and figure shift signal with the numeral function signs and so forth. When a letter shift the transmitter is set with the receiving the instrument with the condition reckoning of any letter summing combination with the reckoning of the letter combination unit figure shift is received. The receiving the instrument sets itself with the condition to recognize any figure signal combination received. The interpretation of the signal combination determine the previous shift angle signal. The plan enables 30 to 32 available combinations to have 2 meanings. Mode of operation. 2 basic mode over the teletype operations. Asynchronous start and stop, and synchronous. The most mode over the teletype operator start and stop. Synchronous operation uses more highly in speed data systems like let's examine their difference. An asynchronous system is a start-stop mode operation receiving the data allowed to run for the only one character to stop and to wait with the reception of the start signal indicate with the next character about to start with in manner of the difference of the space between the transmittal and the receiving device that accumulate with only during the duration of one character. However, you should not know that the penalty must be paid with the forward advantage. The length of each of the character must be increased to include the unit elements to start with the receiving device and another stop. The start perceived the first intelligent unit always in the space signal. Purpose of the start with the receiver the machine, the stop unit followed with the last code of the unit that always mark the signal, and purposes of the stop of the receiver the machine apparatus and preparation with the receiver the next character of the start unit must equal at least 1 with the unit code of the standard mode of the use of the stop until the 1.42 times the length of the 1 of the one intelligent unit. Common practice to refer to the code unit element is used to determine the interchangeable. You will hear the determine variation of the unit referred to as the unit interval. Alright, the length of the time required to transmit the entire character for the call of the character interval. The character interval becomes very important with the certain the transmission because of the certain items of the equipment of the character. It's not the length of the continuous code constitutes stop intervals of various length with the view, but the produce the various equipment in 1.0, 127, and 1.5, 1962, 2.0 and 4. So because of the only difference between the length of the time required for the transmit one character. Asynchronous teletypewriter operation does not include all the key for the rely only upon the transmitted character to maintain proper position relation with the receiving device. The external time signal may be used allowed with the turn for the stop. The start and stop elements to be discarded when even the elements necessary to convey the character. A synchronous system may have the certain advantage of the synchronous over an asynchronous system. Amount of time the transmit the start and stop elements made available to information transmission rather than synchronize the purpose. The only intelligent element for the transmitted start and stop signal the ability of the receiver of the device to select in the proper line signal condition is dependent on the signal quality. For the example, suppose that a certain stop transition arrived before it should, then because of the atmosphere, all of the subsequent selection positions of the character will appear earlier in the time with each of the code element. Synchronizing system have the higher capability of accepting the distorted signals because it does not depend on a certain stop synchronization. Alright, your modulation rate. Several terms that refer to the teletypewriter modulation rate with a single speed. This includes the baud rate with the bits per second and words per minute. The baud is only term with technical accurate, but the other words approximation require explanation. The word baud is the definition even of modulation rate, which sometimes even refer to the single element with the reference of the technical anchor with the baud rate with the reciprocal with the time with the second with the shortness signals element with the defined with the modulation rate. Single with the bauds, you must divide by the number by 1. Time duration short in a unit with the intervals present within the signal. For example, the 22 millisecond with the time interval, the shortest unit with the 5 unit code with the 60 word per minute. To find the number of the bauds correction with the 60 word per minute, divide 1 by 0.22, rounding the result of the division given in 45.5, which bound equivalent to 60 word per minute. Each increase the word per minute, the way correspondingly decrease the signal, the unit time interval, the defensive communication system standard speed, teletypewriter operation is 100 words per minute, or 75 baud. Words per minute is with the speak with the general term of approximation speed with the term 100 words per minute, 105 letter word spacing between them can be transmitted in a 60-second period. However, they obtain with the normal words per minute rate is several systems by varying either modulation rate with the individual character interval length, or retrieve the modulation rate method, the reference for their than the words per minute, and you see the performance of the baud rate with the words per minute is 1 over the unit interval, and second the words per minute, the baud rate unit code times 1/10. The bit is an acronym of the binary digit binary signal with the bit equivalent signal of the element because of the influencing of the computer data processing open upon our length of the modulation rate, sometimes expressed in bits per second. When the understanding the single element of the transmitted are the equal length of the modulation expressed with the bits per second, the same modulation rate expressed in the baud. Alright, DC circuits. You were told that the two conditions for the marks debate may be represented with the convenient means. Two most common are neutral and polar operation. The neutral current flow with the present with the mark, and no current flow with the representative of the space. And polar operation, the current impulse of one polarity represents the mark, the impulse of the opposite polarity equal magnitude represents the space. Neutral circuits make use of the present absent current flow with conveying information. The neutral teletypewriter circuit that go over the transmitting device battery store for the supply current of the variables, resist control of the amount of the current that receive the device and line with the transmission medium. Polar operation difference of the neutral operation. The two waves of the current always presented in polar shifting either positive or negative of the polar teletypewriter circuit that contain the same with the atom neutral circuit that apply to the additional battery store for the battery referred to here as the actual battery, but a solid state DC power supply and provide the variable current with the teletypewriter. The reason have the external battery store for the because the circuits have the positive battery and for the marks and negative battery space. You'll find the polar operation for the distortion signal that almost impossible low line with current with a high reactive with the random patching with the signal circuit with the equivalent polar signaling the extreme with the complete loss of the current with the reading of the 0 with the milliamp. They have the line with the equal trouble. You have the same condition. Neutral signal may include the stage wave with the being transmitted that gives you the condition of running open or this condition teletypewriter appear with the running through the machine, the decoding with the constant space of the baud character blank with the type of the hammer continually striking the tip of the type box. There's no printing or type box movement across the page. Alright, your basic system. Two type of teletypewriters connected with the communication wire cable over the short and long distance. Exchange of the information between them and the direct with the teletypewriters are not current physically joint exchange of the information must be involved. The direct current market the main space and interval cannot be sent through the air gap. Mention the gap between the machines may be bridged by radioing the radio transmitter, receiver the transmitter, produce the radio frequency carrier, where to carry the market of the space of the intelligence. The key is need to change the DC pole with the teletypewriter into the corresponding markets of base modulation carrier to wave transmit with the radio receiver their end or converter are required to change the radio frequency signal back to DC pulses. Alright, your radio teletypewriter system. ABU, the two basic radio teletypewriter system, the tone modulator system refers to the audio frequency tone shift and the carrier frequency shift referred to the radio frequency carrier shift. The carrier frequency shift is also called the frequency shift key. Figure 319 show the modulate carrier the wave the audio tone impulse with impressed with the radio frequency carrier corresponding with the DC mark and space signals. Modulated carrier audio tones marking spaces. When you best explain the carrier frequency shift, signal comparing the on-off continuous wave with new wave signal essential with the continuous frequency with no variation of the frequency axis. Figure 320 view A is example the complete intelligent carrier the variation signal amplitude. Figure 320 view B show that the same signal will shift the frequency between the marks and spaces. Figure 328 show the continuous wave through the carrier frequency shift system. The audio frequency tone shift. The tone modulated system, the amplitude modulation chain of the DC and mark with the space impulse of the audio electrical impulses. Basic tone modulation shown in figure 321 converts the audio tones accomplished with the audio oscillator with the tone converter, rapidly varying with the tone according with the characters transmitted with the teletypewriter, equivalent to amplitude modulated with the carrier, the wave of the transmitter, receiver, the modulating signal separates the audio signal from the carrier, the process of the separating the modulating signal known as detection demodulation. Show the tone modulating system tone terminal marking space, the teletypewriter audio's electrical pulse for the corresponding to the marking space, signal with the modulator carrier wave, tone modulating system receiver, the modulator carrier, audio electrical impulse tone converter marking and signal system. Radio frequency carrier shift. The frequency shift systems are the transmitter provided the source of the radio frequency excitation. Figure 322 should be illustrated for the basic frequency shift keyed system. The environment system keys built into the transmitter key shift in single box above the sign with the frequency of the corresponding to the marking space acquired by the teletypewriter character of the normal. The key is adjusted at 850 Hz, subscribed with the 425 Hz above, 425 Hz below. Assigned frequency of space impulse at 425 above the operating frequency, and marking impulse will appear at 425 Hz below. Your carrier frequency transmitter will show the direct current spacing, the teletypewriter, the frequency shift, radio frequency oscillator carrier frequency modulator with the XMRT, frequency shift carrier to receive the audio for electrical impulse converter, marking space signal carrier frequency shift system receiver. In both the tone modulating system and the carrier frequency shift, the teletypewriter signal is passing through the teletypewriter panel with control of the looping control of the circuit, the looping control of the current supply with the teletypewriting battery, total typewriting panel integrated with the tone module with the carrier frequency shift, and provide even every possible interconnection available to total typewriting equipment with configuration, maximum operational flexibility to the left amount of the circuit equipment. Alright, your RFCS sending system. Show that the teletypewriter transmit with the communication system. You should refer to this frequently when reading the functional description of equipment shown. Alright, they show the radio transmitter antenna will receive the switchboard, the communications patch panel, the cryptographic equipment switch, looping set, miscellaneous communication patch panel, red automatic typewriter switch, selector line test, teletypewriter transmitter, distributor, perforator, automatic character counter, remote transmitter, control unit, transmitter switchboard. Alright, your teletypewriter sets. Most teletypewriter sets to you with the Navy belong with one of the family of teletypewriter equipment. The equipment varies, feature of the various weights on the side of the quiet operation and height of the operation speeds. Proof is relative to view maintenance problem because they are well suited to serve the year of the shipboard. Control of the condition roll vibration show the teletypewriters operate the various condition conversion one speed with another usually one matter change of the gear but located within the equipment. Teletypewriter may send the receiver this unit receiving only unit of the design and floor module, table module, rack, wall mounted sets. Teletypewriter showing the sending and receiving floors module. The teletypewriter receive the message of the writing on the page side with a copy of the paper. Condition can receive the record page message of the perforated tape with the keyboard perforated type sending the message. Page printing monitoring is available to both methods. The set shown prepare perforated printed tape with a separate print transmission depth with and without the simultaneously transmission page printing monitoring. The combination service is available extensive. The teletypewriting set includes the cabinet keyboard page printer type perforator transmitter distributor typing perforator power distribution panels power to supply. In operation for the components linked with electrical mechanical connections, you give them the wide range of the possible sending and receiving the strong teletypewriter meant for the all equipment. The components are housed in cabinet transmission initiated with the keyboard and through the transmitter with the distributed signal to receive the local transmission can be mounted over the page panel with the type of the perforator type of perforator device or reprinting. Hearing tapes on locally initiated incoming teletypewriter messages can be stored in the future transmission of the TD. Our communication patching panel that provides flexibility with the jack with the U with the terminate the teletypewriter is associated equipment. The jacks are wired with the communication patch panel with the U for the teletypewriter patch panel. You're able to connect with a combination equipment electrically means with the patch cord. The plugs and patch cord insert the jack for the front panel. The plugs have the three different parts of the type: the tip, ring, and the sleeve. Tip carry with the intelligence signal with the rings carry with the synchronizing step with the timing signal with the sleeve. The carry with the alarm signal with the indicator both visual and audible. The problem with the operator. The problem may occur. Maybe the equipment failure to lock the loop with the current improper patching, the patching of the combination with the combination for the equipment with the wire together with the panel with the call the normal through the individual piece of the equipment wired on the jacks to allow them use the alone with the combination teletypewriter panel with the first with the central point with the connection for the DC voltage supply with the teletypewriter with the one source of the supply can be used with the all circuit with the passing of the particular panel. Red and black, U with the patch panel will identify whether the panel is U with the passing secure with the non-secure information. Red indicate with the encrypted information for the passing through the panel. The black indicate with the non-secure with the unencrypted information being passed with the patch panel through which cover the information indicate the red sign with the front of the eye, white block. There's red patch panel with the non-secure information path with the indicate with the two black signals front with the high white block letters. And also extend the black patch panel on each of the other unclassified only. Each panel consists of the 6 channels. Each channel is off the own circuitry, a loop setting the set jack 3 sets, adjusting line current, the number of looping and set jacks, each of the carries with each of the panel mode. Each panel includes the meter of the rotary selector switch with the measuring line current with the end of the channel 6 miscellaneous jacks. Teletype equipment not regularly assigned to the channel that may be connected with one of these jacks. If desired, teletypewriter equipment will have with the same looping channel with the radio adapter with the channel is required, but if the desired teletypewriter not wire with the same looping channel that is in a keyer with a converter with must be passed. For example, let's put a teletypewriter channel 1 with a converter with on channel 3. If you want to receive, you must insert one end of the patch go over the set jack of the channel 1 and the other either end with the two looping channel with 3. If any switching operating between the plug with the jack for the teletypewriter with the core plug must be plugged in with the looping jack before the removal of the other plug with the set with the machine jack. Pulling the plug on from the set jack first to open the circuit of the channel, covering the teletypewriter messages in the channel being interrupted. Warning: remove the set of the machine jack before looping the jack with exposed the dangerous DC voltage exposed plugs. Cryptographic equipment you would encrypt with the decrypt with the dimension teletypewriter message with the required with the security handling. Encrypted method you would decode with the transmitted with the message with the decrypted you would decode with the receiving the message with the code with the decoding the message with the sum of the receiving cryptographic equipment must be compatible. Remote transmitter control unit. The remote transmitter control unit mounted with the keyboard with the permit with the remote control with the transmitter power on and off, the switch of the power indicator lamp with the carrier, the indicator lamp on with the reposition rotary selector switch with the radio frequency control system. You select the CFSN send. Transmit CNF to receive. You will tone SNR with the position of the both transmitting and receiving the AFTS signals. The audio frequency tone shift system we'll discuss later in this chapter. Transformer switchboard with the transformer switchboard. You the system connected with the remote transmitter control with you with the radio transmitter with the teletype signal. You should be careful with you tuning the transmitter with the radio frequency control system. The carrier frequency shifting critical must be properly sure of the correct output of the transmitter radio frequency control system. Receiving system figure 324 of the RFCS. Receive system receive the transmitted signal to translate it back the usable output. You should look at the figure with the showing units in the selection. From the antenna with the coupler antenna filter, the radio receiver, the transformer, transfer switchboard, converter comparability group, the communication panel with the cryptographic and frequency shift converter, communication panel, switch panel, red switch looping jack, set of miscellaneous compact receiving teletypewriter. Antenna filter assembly. Antenna filter assembly connected with the antenna to receive the radio frequency signal from the antenna. The filters out with the unwanted radio frequency signal to allow the desired band with the frequency to pass. Radio receiver takes through the RF signal with the path of the antenna filter translated to the audio signal. Radio frequency transformer switchboard receiver transformer switchboard view the type of the receiver the converter of the unit of the continued connected to it allows you the wide selection of the equipment the connection from the same receiver. Your converter comparator group, the converter comparator group, the receiver, the either space with the frequency diversity operation not required. Each converter can be used separately with a single receiver. That each converter is used as a comparator circuitry of the built-in design feature result with a considerable reduction in size from the older units. Comparator it will be located with a separate chassis, and the older unit side of the further has been reduced with the microelectrons. 325. Show the basic method to convert the frequency shift of the radio frequency signal into the signal to control the DC loop with the teletypewriter and the frequency to shift of the audio frequency with the output of the receiver to convert with the DC pole with the audio frequency discriminated DC poles. They're then fed into the keyer. The keyer opens and closes the DC loop with the try according to mark of the space that the characters received. Show the 325. Show the frequency receiving the system in block diagram. Frequency shift of the radio frequency signal. Show the frequency through beat frequency oscillator, high frequency audio frequency discriminator, low frequency shift of the positive voltage loop keyer, closed circuit mark and open circuit space, and the type of the typewriter, the frequency shift A, frequency DC output, total teletypewriter printer, and diversity operator for the comparator section with the converter receptor comparator group is shown figure 324 compared with the string with the signal of the two receiver the signal of the E for the converter are fed into the comparator circuit the comparison, the signal comparison that's displayed with the CRT or on the front of the equipment, the comparison of the form of the Lyso-Josias pattern. Lyso-Josias patterns combined with the simultaneous display with the amplitude, the phase, the relationship between the input signals. One signal is applied to its vertical, the other horizontal deflection of the Lyso-Josias pattern have then application for the electronics have the operational U for the wells, U for the correct preventive maintenance. Further coverage of Lyso-Josias patterns, which can be found in the Module 19 Technician's Handbook. Figure 326 show the typical Lyso-Josias monitoring patterns for the converter comparator group. Once you have the correct tune signal, the feed with the communication patching panel with the teletypewriter note. Let's refer to the figure 324 where you discover the rest of the unit system. Correct tuning, incorrect tuning to noise. Continuous space, continuous mark with noise, continuous space with noise. 326 for the typical Lyso-Josias monitoring patterns. The communication panel patch. The communication panel patch serve the same function. The receiver, the radio frequency control system of the data on the transmitting side with the route of the DC signal to the proper cryptographic equipment. The route of the decode of the teletypewriter signal with the cryptographic equipment is set with the teletypewriter. Cryptographic equipment. The cryptographic equipment converts transmitted the code signal. The decode signal that can be printed out with the original state. Teletypewriter is the teletypewriter equipment. As you convert these signal to refer you to the communication panel printing copy of the original transmitted patch of the teletypewriter showing that you only receive that does not have the ability to transmit. Your AFTS signal. Simple black diagram of the field duplex sending and receive the ultra high frequency audio frequency tone shift system. The high duplex configuration communication circuit is a permanent two-way communication between states. Communication be either direction, both simultaneously, but not simultaneously. The term half duplex is qualified and by adding sending only, receiving only, and sending or receiving the less black of the device and tracing signal through the system. Antenna multiple coupler, ultra high frequency radio transfer switch, terminal tone set, transmitter switchboard back to the L high frequency set. The CMRT teletypewriter control unit goes to transfer switch board. The tone terminal set goes to the communication patching panel, while the DC power supply goes to the communication panel and the teletypewriter set. Alright, signal flow only the transmitter side of the DC signal from the transmitter set with the communication patching panel with the panel match for the tone terminal set with the tone terminal set converts the DC signal output with the auto tone shift with the signal there and patch to the transmitter slide section of the receiver through the transmitter transformer transfer switchboard. The auto tone shift with the modulator, the radio frequency carrier generated with the transmitter. The radio frequency tone modulator signal with the radiate with the antenna. With one receiver the radio frequency tone modulator signal, the receiver the antenna you pass for the signal leave the multiple clip the reverse section of the transceiver. The demodulation takes place at the point resulting in audio tone shift then patch through the receiver the transformer switch the signal now that go through the switchboard with the tone terminal set with which are converted back to the DC signal. The signal patch for the communication patching of the panel with the teletypewriter for the printing. Your tone terminal system. The tone modulating transmission for the teletypewriter pole converted into the corresponding audio tone of the tone modulate the radio frequency care with the transmitter, the conversion of the audio tones complex for the audio oscillator, the tone converter, the internal relay with the tone converter, glow with the control line with the transmitter, with the key transmitter on the air with the operator being with the type of the message of the transmitter remain with the key until the air after the message has been transmitted. On the receiver side of the tone converter, except for the market of the coming in from the receiver, the converter for the signal is suitable with the operator with the relay into the converter, the make of the break of the contacts relay with the contact and connect with the local teletypewriter with the DC loop circle that cover the teletypewriter to print the unison with the market space with the signal of the distance of the teletypewriter. Multiplexing with the number of the communication networks operating through any of the given area with the increasing as of the result of the all areas of the radio frequency spectrum have been highly congested. For the maximum number of the intelligible transmission taking the play for the radio spectrum being through the multiplexing simultaneously transmission number of intelligible signal with message for the either both or directions. You only a single radio frequency carry the two methods of the multiplexing time division frequency division. Time division. The AM voice for the tone communication we want to transmit and receive at the 360 degrees each of the same way. However, the audio signal may be transmitted with the received satisfactory periodically sampling with the signal. The sample process for the yield of the received signal like the one shown figure 328. No limited maximum number of the samples may be made, but you must sample at least twice per cycle of the audio to get the satisfactory result. Practical system 2.4 samples per cycle. They're usually taken concept of the sampling form base for the time division multiplex operation. So the total audio sin wave, the sample 328 of the components of the sin wave, the figure 329 view A illustrates the fundamental principle of the time division. Look at the example. Assume the 3,000 hertz ohm that is applied with a 6 channel with a transmitter. Assume that all rotating switch during the over the sample in terms of each of the six channels 2.4 times during each of the cycle of 300,000 hertz tone. Speed rotation of the switch then must be then 2.4 times 3,000 or 72,000 rotations per second in the optimum sampling practical system. Our channels 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 in the rotating switch, and then you have your channels 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6 out. Show the channel sample of the channel 1 through 6 sample unit, the sample 1 through sample 2, the channel sample 1 through 6, 1 sample 4. Alright, when transmitter receiver the switch of the synchronized signal will be the proper the sequence the receiver the channel the transmitter channel is one of the VFAB of the receiver the channel 1 in wave of the channel of the audio combined with the to form the single output with the multiplex the time space with the curve with the component with the separate chain channel to chain the transmitter with the V with the wire radio path with the distance the multiplexing receiver the each receiver the channel function that select with the reconstruct the only information included with the original transmitted channel. And most days, application for the electronic switching, even the sampling component of the main advantage for the electronic sampling long life for electronic switching, which compared with the electromagnetic switch, we use mechanical system in our example that makes these concepts easier for the use. Now let's look at the figure 329 of the UB with the channel 1 is the sample 4 times of this if the output of the channel of 1 and the transmitter figure 329 of UC shows all 6 channels being sampled 4 times during the each cycle of this output with the rotating switch of the transmitter, which you see here with the continuous time sharing wave form. More of the 6 channel per 24 or more, maybe even when increase the number of the channels width of each of the segment must be reduced. The problem reducing the width of the panel, pulse of the bandwidth necessary for the transmission of the generally greatly increase the degree of the pulse width, the degree of the minimum required rise time of the sampling pulse to increase the required bandwidth. When you increase the number of the channels, you increase the bandwidth. The bandwidth is also affected by the shape of the sampling pulse. The method used varying pulse. Common method of time division multiplexing is pulse amplitude modulation, pulse width, and pulse duration modulation, pulse position modulation, pulse code modulation. We have then studying example of pulse amplitude modulation. The method of time division mode is discovered the module 12 modulation principles. Alright, frequency division. I'm going to cut the tape there, and we'll come back for part, I'll just pause it. Alright, your frequency division. Frequency division multiplexing. Unlike time division multiplexing receives for full 360-degree sine wave for full frequency division multiplexing presented with the Navy divided into 2 categories. One category is over the voice communications over the teletype communications. The normal voice speaking range is between 100 and 350 Hz during the single channel of the AM voice signal with the auto frequency amplitude modulates a single radio frequency carrier frequency. However, in the FDM frequency division multiplexing, each frequency modulates separate the frequency lower than the carrier frequency subcarrier frequency. And these subcarrier frequencies are separated in 3,500 Hz or more. They may be combined with a composite signal. The signal modulates the carrier frequency without causing excessive interference. In figure 330, the output channel of one of the voice frequency ranges from 100 to 3,500 Hz. The output channel of the 2 of the combination difference rate voice frequency with the subcarrier frequency with the 400,000 Hz. The output channel of 3 of another voice carrier frequency. 4 frequency combined within the subcarrier frequencies are 8,000 Hz. Give an output frequency range of 8,100 Hz to 11,500 Hz, and the overall bandwidth of the composite modulation packaging shown in figure 100. Is 100 to 15,500 Hz. Each separate channel occupies its own band frequency. The composite signal is used to modulate the carrier frequency of the transmitter. So for the output frequency, the frequencies 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 subchannels, channel subcarrier frequency 3 and 4. Alright, multiple channel broadcast shift to short termination of the teletype radio frequency division multiplexing with a system each of the channel composite two-tone composite tone package of broadcasting assigned with the frequency multiplexing teletype radio shown with 16 circuits that may be carried in any one of the 3,000 Hz multiplexable channels described above. Do not confuse the 2 types of multiplexing. In the first case, 3,000 Hz audio channel have been combined. In the second case, the normal with the DC teletype radio circuits are converted in tone keying combined into signal 3,000 Hz audio channel. Figure 331 illustrates the 16 channel teletype radio multiplexing. The output of the DC pulse circuit is converted with the audio keying. Each channel has a separate audio center with the frequency. The channel frequencies range from the 425 Hz to the lowest channel with the 2,975 Hz for the highest channel marking. as individual teletypewriter loops keep the audio tone at 42.5 hertz below the center frequency. Speak the input signal frequencies, the audio tone 42.5 hertz above the center frequencies. Look at the example of the mark and space frequency channel 1 calculated 382.5 to 467.5 hertz, respectively 425 plus or minus 42.5. Combined with these codes, the tone of the composite signal result of the tone package standard value is 3,000 hertz bandwidth. By occupying no more than 3,000 hertz of the audio spectrum, the output signal is suitable for the transmission via the radio or landline. All right, you have your teletypewriters 1 through 16, your cable DC teletypewriter signal, the cabinet housing 8 keyers, 2 cabinet housing 8 keyers, communication radio composite 16 tone output, radio transmitter communication link. Or fast mile, or fax, is a method of transmitting a still image of the electrical communication system. The image is called the picture, a copy with the fax transmittal with a man with a photograph, sketch with the typewritten, printed text with a handwritten figure 32 show of the fast mile transceiver. You must realize the still image serving the fax copy with the picture cannot be transmitted instantaneously entirely. 3 distinct operations performed there: scanning, transmitting, and recording, receiving. 322 show of the fast metal transceiver. The scanning converts the subdivided picture with the ordinarily manner with a large number of the segment process accomplished with faxing, transmitted with the scanning drum of the photo tube of the arrangement. Picture you want to transmit is bound with a cylindrical scanning drum of the drum rotated with the constant speed at the same time with the move of the longitude along with the shaft of the light with this electrical exciter lamp illuminates a small segment of the move of the picture reflect with the picture with the aperture of the photo tube during the picture transmission. The light crosses with every segment of the picture as the drum slowly spirals past the fixed lighted area. Amount of light reflected with the photo tube, the amount of the light and darkening with the segment of the picture being scanned. The photo tube, the chamber, the area mounts up with the light with the electrical signal. The amplitude modulate with the constant frequency output with the local oscillator. Modulating signal is then amplified sound with the radio circuit signal. Received with the fax received with the amplified with the actuating recorder mechanism. The recorder makes a permanent recording of the segments by segment on paper. The paper is attached with the receiver of the drum, similar to one of the fax transmitter. The receiver drum rotates to synchronize with the transmitter of the drum. Synchronization of the receiver and transmitter is done with the reducing distortion. Synchronization obtained with the driving both the receiver and the transmitter drum. The synchronizing motors are operating with the same speed. Drum rotation continue with the original picture and reproduce the recording mechanism. Reproduce the pictorial photograph by the modulating light source shining on the photographic paper with the film. It may also reproduce the directly burning white, protect the coating on the special prepared black recording paper. Alright, the receiver drum is framed with respect with the transmitter drum by a series of pellet plate phasing pulse is transmitted just before the transmission. The pulse operates the clutch mechanism as that starts the scanning drum of the receiver that ensure the proper with respect with the starting position of the scanning drum of the transmitter. Figure 33 shows the block diagram, each for the equipment necessary for the radio fast mile operation. Figure view A shows the receiver shift the system consistent with the standard radio receiver, the frequency shift converter, the fast mile or recorder. View B shows the two system of the transmitting of the TIF signal with the upper row of the block with the carrier frequency shift transmission for the system of the fast mile transceiver, the keyer with the adapter key shift, frequency shift keyer, the transmitter capable of frequency shift keying, emissions, lower row block for the auto frequency transmission, audio, and use of frax transceiver, radio modulator, AM transmitter. Show the receiver with the frequency of the converter, the fast mile recorder of the transceiver. View B, fast mile frequency shift keying, frequency shift keyer, key adapter, fast mile transmitter, key adapter, frequency shift keyer, transmitter, antenna. Fast mile operator, radio modulator, transmitter, voice, security, operation, monitoring, and safety. Security, quality, monitoring, safety are an important area that must be aware of the fundamentals of how will suit the higher quality communications to help to meet the communication goal of the Navy. Let's find out the fundamentals are what they will do for you. Tempest. Compromising emanations are generally referred to as the tempest. The signal may be the unintentional data-related intelligence bearing the intercept of the analog. But the signal could discover the classified information. Tempest problems associated with the material transmitted, received, handled, and otherwise processed with the electrical information processing equipment system. Any electrical information process device may copy any of the electrical typewriter large and complexity data process may emit the interceptable compromising emanations. Some of the countermeasures taken to ensure against tempest problems are listed below. Design of the equipment in which the CE is pressed. And approve the installation criteria with the limits of interaction between classified and unclassified signals, lines, power lines, grounds, equipment and system lower level keying and signal shifting enclosure with equipment installation, proper board grounding and equipment including ground straps. Transmission security includes all measurement to design the proper protect transmission for the interception of the traffic analysis and initiative imitative deception. Every meaning of the transmission subject for the interception and transmission. It should be assumed that all transmissions are intercepted. Speed versus security. The fundamental requirements of military communications are reliability, security, speed. The reliability always first security, speed. The next importance, depending upon the state of the operation, the interchangeable during the planning phase of the security, but the more important speed during execution phase. Speed sometimes passes security importance. Radio transmission security. The message transmitted with the radio originator may know some of who's receiving it, but will never know all those who are receiving the message. You must assume that anyone received every transmission property prepared message of the modern cryptographic systems may prevent any from understanding the message. However, they can still learn a lot. For example, as the time of the planned operation approaches, the number of the message transmitted increases. Any enemy knows that something will occur that soon. The forces will be alerted. Strict radio silence, main defense against the radio intelligence. The amount of the radio traffic is not only indicated by the use of enemy statistical studies of the message, handwriting, acknowledgments, relays, routing, instruction services. Even the enemy communications experts often learn much about the appointment of the opponent from the studies. Direct finders or another aid of the enemy even determine where the message originated. Radio, telephone security. Radio networks are operated frequently. The operators tend to be careless. Therefore, too many instances of the interception of the very high frequency, ultra high frequency transmission distance of many thousand miles. You may have an occasion to work around these type of equipment. If you are required to bring your transmitter on the air for any purpose, you must familiarize it with the use of all the correct procedures. Shipboard Communications System Quality Monitoring, or QMS, or QMCS. The recent volume shipboard communications has increased generally with the expansion led by the shipboard installation, sophisticated equipment factors, frequency, accuracy, DC signal distortion, and any critical operation of communication system depends on precise initial lineup monitoring to ensure the safety and operation of the maintained system. Degradation is often coupled with the many small contribution factors are added together. The system becomes unstable. Scheduled maintenance. When you perform scheduled logistic check for the ensure continuous optimal performance of shipboard communication system, you're doing a scheduled maintenance. In many the cases, these maintenance prevents outages before occur. But some of the scheduled checks may include the following: transmitter, receiver frequency, transmitter power out, receiver sensitive bandwidth, primary voltage, current and cycles, electromagnetic interference (EMI), many complex electrical systems installed with the Navy ship. With the modern ships, complex systems have high power grade of sensitivity being crowded with the restricted corrosive area. Figure 34 is the spruceness glass destroyers crowded compact communication environmental system perform the individual function of the interference known as the electromagnetic capability. Electromagnetic capability is concerned with the structure of the ship. The electronic system compact environment is major limitation effectiveness of the total shipment and its concept. Ship the total shipment. Operation total ship is a unique shipboard or environmental present change over the challenge to all concerned. You must always consider the effect of the motion, temporary variation, exposure to the adverse elements for the have the performance of the total ship. This is in particular true with some of the components of the on the top side. On the shipboard, you will find much of the attention to keeping the top side cosmetically and mechanical ship shape. It's not equally important for the electronically ship shape. Minor mechanical problems such as loose connection, broken bonds, straps, rusty junctions can seriously communication problems. The source of electromagnetic radiation reduces receiver performance is known with electromagnetic interference. Sources of electromagnetic interference can be divided into the following broad categories. Alright, functional electromagnetic interference can originate with any source designated with a generated electromagnetic energy which create interference with the normal part of the operation. The interference may be the unintentional cause of the on the other board with the adjacent platform system. The interference is also may be intentionally caused by electronic countermeasures. Incidental electromagnetic interference originates from man-made source of the source designated specifically generate electromagnetic energy, but it does in fact cause the interference. For example, the incidental electromagnetic interference source that include power lines, motors, and switches. Natural EMI electromagnetic interference can be caused by natural phenomena such as the electrical storms, rain, particles, solar, interstellar radiation. Recognized with the following audible noise: the intermittent impulse of the high intensity that causes nearby electrical storms, steady rattling, cracking caused by distant electrical storms, continuous noise, precipitation, static caused electrically charged raindrops, steady hits at high frequencies caused by interstellar noise. Hull-generated EMI can be caused with the interaction-related signals, eliminating the hull rigging of the ship. The functional signals themselves do not cause interference. Alright, the following are two general types of the EMI: transmitted conduction, undesired energy with the one equipment is coupled with the interconnecting cable with the component with the another equipment. Energy is converted and conducted via the wiring, schedule, and glove the protections of the trick that you find with the proper design and adequate insulation, shielding capable cables, equipment that can control this problem. Radiation energy beamed directly with the transmitting and source of the victim. The receiver the intent interference with pick up the receiver that have the two solution interfering energy be eliminated is source that you can filter and blanket out of the victim. The equipment that filtering is far less desirable. Interfering may be on the same frequency as desired signal, will not be limited, affecting the reception of all desired signals. Most unprotected shipboard receivers are inspected with the EMI over the frequency range of the most modern wire. The normal band frequency, the all frequency rejection, rarely extremely strong. The adjacent channel signal. These signals are entered the receiver. The degrade receiver the performance and by process along with the desired tune signal. Usually, processing and presence of the EMI will be apparent to you, even if it has a bad effect on the desired signal quantity of the cross modulation spurious response occurs when they occur of the desired signal main or module carries undesired signal extremely strong off frequencies. Signals may even burn out into the front end storage stage of the receiver. EMI can also degrade overall receiver the performance in a less noticeable way. It does this by desensitizing the receiver from the front end. The noise level raised effectively lowers the signal to noise ratio. Thus, sensitivity that's caused with the decrease the desired signal amplification. These reasons shipboard receive systems are also designed to include protective circuitry between the antenna and the receiver to filter out frequency signals. These limits interference, desensitization, burnout, depending upon the system. The protective devices include filters, multiple filters, pre-selectors, so forth. These devices can minimize interference caused by inadequate frequency separation, poor physical isolation between transmitter and receiver antennas. Electromagnetic radiation. Radio frequency transmission signals are higher power transmitting tubes. High gain with the antennas have in frequency possibility injury personnel work in the vicinity. Electromagnetic radiation hazard exists for the electromagnetic equipment generates strong enough electromagnetic field to fall in the categories listed below. Causes harmful injuries to affect the human wildlife and due to the while others coupled with currents and voltage magnitude large enough to initiate other electro-explosive devices, other sensitive electro component of the weapon system ordnance for the other explosive device create sparks large enough to ignite flammable mixtures of materials that must handle in the affected areas. The hazardous situation can be coupled with the transmitter antenna installation generate electromagnetic radiation vicinity personnel of the ordnance reveal operation except for the established safety level to sometimes the existing electromagnetic radiation level increase the hazard level of when personnel ordnance or fuel evolutions are located in an area they can be illuminated. Electromagnetic radiation hazardous situation may occur. Electromagnetic radiation hazardous person in two ways to cover the radio frequency burns. It can also cover the biological, thermal, neurological effect for the personnel rate has. We cover the difference of the characteristics safety precautions required for each of the two types they will discuss separately. A radio frequency burn is hazardous condition cover the existing of the radio frequency voltage in places where they are not intended. Any ship the higher power high frequency transmitters with susceptible potential hazardous voltages have been found in many areas. Some of these lifelines and vertical ladders, ASROC launchers, gun mounts, rigging underway, replenishment boat davits, any other areas of the aircraft tied down on carrier helicopter flight decks. Whether or not the induced voltage created the radio frequency burn, it depends on whether the person will come into contact with the object being energized. Generally, other voltage may voltage between an object and the deck. It's important the radio frequency curve of the person when it comes in contact with the source of the radio frequency voltage manner. Also, have the radio frequency flow with the area of contact resistance with the skin current with the flow of the across area of the contact is caused by the burn effect of the heat with the person point with the contact range to the noticeable warmth and painful burn. The most useful widespread technique for the reducing radio frequency burn hazard is the proper bounding grounding of all metal object of the radio frequency radiation field. In some cases, the radio frequency burn hazard eliminated only those covered the use of restrictive operating procedure. The procedure governing simultaneously transmitting cargo equipment, the technique such as the operating transmitter reduced power prohibitions simultaneously the current combinations to frequencies cargo handling equipment are used. Figure 335 shows the typical radio frequency radiation hazard warning signs. And then it shows the warning signs. Alright, most studies on the subject of the radiation hazards emphasize the impact of electromagnetic radiation on the man is singled out because of the biological, thermal, neurological effect for the human organs or other biological tissues. Certain organs of the body are considered to be more suspect for the other effect for the electromagnetic radiation presently available. The information experience indicate the eyes of the testes of the most vulnerable body organs. Overwhelming danger and it appear for the hazard of the thermal effect for that function with the intensity of the radiation frequency particularly true with a range of 1 to 3 gigahertz. Thermal effects appear to taper off at the severe body outside of the range. When the lower irradiated energy of the points over the total body surface of the useful not exposed the larger exposed the lower the radiation power density the higher power the temperature rises the greater the hazard of the high radiation from radio sources will cook you. Internally, you call it just as a microwave oven cooks chicken. Injury greater concern of the lens of the eye with exposure of the lens of the high intensity microwaves may cause cataracts. The current medical evidence indicates significant temperature evaluation lens required cataract formation exposure limited to 10 milliwatts per centimeter square with the lens of the temperature not evaluated level of the cataract occur. In addition, the thermal effect of non-ionizing radiation is known to produce known thermal effects, and association with biological hazard non-thermal effects have not been demonstrated. A peculiar effect experienced by some person with a sensation of the sound when exposed to the pulse microwave field that is occur with a level below stated hazard limits is not intensify itself considered dangerous. All right, chapter 3 summary.